I'm Rachel. I'm here with my friend April, and this is Mindful, the podcast where we try to mind what actually matters and focus on the things in our life that are important and not all the other junk. So, first of all, I just want to thank you for accepting the invitation to join us here today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and that's kind of a clue about what we're talking about here. Is invitations,
Invitations.
right? They're
Yeah,
important,
they
right?
are.
Like, I wouldn't be here doing this if someone hadn't, invited me to work on this podcast, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm.
And, you wouldn't be here if we hadn't invited you to, come speak, and now you're
Yeah.
coming all the time, which is
Yeah, I
awesome, we
love
love it, yeah.
it.
So, tell me, when you, extend an invitation to someone, um, how do you usually just do that? Like, if you're gonna just invite someone, I know a lot of people struggle with that. How do you, just break through and be like, "Hey?"
Oh, yeah. My favorite start invitation, especially if it's somebody new, is either coffee or a meal. Everybody gets a little more relaxed when they've got a warm cup of Java or their nice chai or whatever drink they like, and or some food. I think that's an easy way to invite, and it's quick. Most people will say yes to that. Like, hey,
Right.
where do you like to eat? You like sushi? I love sushi. Let's go grab some sushi. After an event, or you just met someone, or you cross paths, you were at an event together and you kind of hit it off a little bit.
Right.
Hey, what are you doing this weekend? I don't have anything to do. Would you mind? I'd love to
Yeah.
grab some coffee with you. And that's typically the easiest way to extend an invitation, especially to somebody new.
So, yeah, and we're obviously gonna talk about some bigger invitations that we can
Right.
extend, but you're saying, maybe we should start with, getting to know them and being their friend before
Absolutely.
we're like, "Learn about Jesus now."
Absolutely. Yeah, you actually softballs.
Yeah,
Like you're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
cuz I want a person to know that I want to know them, because
Right.
everything about them informs how you extend bigger invitations.
Right,
So
okay.
if I know that you have a, fear of large crowds, I'm not going to invite you to, if I want to share the gospel with you or share my faith with you, I would much rather maybe invite you to my small group or to a smaller event that's more intimate, instead of saying, "Hey, I go to this huge mega church. I want you to come." But I
Right,
wouldn't know that if we didn't just spend some time together getting to know each other.
right.
So smaller invitations can always lead to bigger ones, but it gives us an opportunity to, just to get to know each other, and
Right.
just that way, no matter where the invitation is or wherever you land, there's some commonality there. And that's another big thing too, is finding that common ground. Like, what do we have in common? Because that creates opportunity to extend further conversations as well.
Right, and that makes so much sense because you're talking about finding common ground too.
Hmm.
And that's not always obvious,
Right.
what that you have common ground with someone.
Hmm.
Just you might look at someone, and we're gonna get real here.
Hmm.
Like, they're a different race
Hmm.
or they come from a different faith.
Hmm.
And, inviting someone like that where it's like, I don't know what they're like. I don't know. Am I gonna how do you kind of get over that fear of someone being different than you and then still trying to find that commonality, you
Yeah.
know?
I think it's by starting with curiosity and not fear. It's not allowing it to be something that you should be fearful of, but wanting to explore. And then some people do that a little more naturally.
Right.
But like, say for example, I would be curious, like, oh my gosh, your hair has so many colors in it, but it's so cute. Like, what made you decide to do that? It's about curiosity and questions, because curiosity leads to good questions, and good questions leads to great conversation and your ability to be able to find common ground. So like, if I were to ask you that question and you just like, I don't know, I was into this, or, I just decided I want to do something crazy, it makes me maybe think of something crazy I decided to do. Oh, you've got a
Right.
nose ring. I've got a nose ring. You know,
Oh, you do?
you've got 2 ears of ears. I've got to, so little things. It's almost like you don't have to necessarily start with what the big thing is, but start with something simple. The first thing that I know we have in common is that we're both women.
Yes, this is
You know what
so
I mean?
true.
We're
Yeah.
we're both women, and
Yeah.
so, "Oh, how old are you? What," that kind of thing.
Right.
So it's finding those smaller things, that's an immediate common ground. And I think sometimes we search so long or so hard for some big thing in common, where we totally miss the obvious.
Right.
Like, we're both women. That means there's a
That's
lot of experiences that we shared, no matter whether you're white or whether I'm black or whether you came from Texas and I came from Georgia. As women, we
right.
have common experiences, and so start there. It's,
Right.
something so simple.
There's always something. We're all created in God's image.
Absolutely.
I read a quote recently that, what was it? God has never looked at you and wished he saw someone else.
Ah, I love
And I
that.
wish I knew who said it because
Oh
I can't
my
remember. But I
gosh.
was like, well, that's like, wow, you know? Because how
That's
many times have you looked at yourself and wished you saw someone else, you know?
that is life
I,
changing.
well,
That is
I,
so
I, have, I have one good idea a year and you just got to hear it. So,
God never looks at you and wishes he saw somebody else.
yeah,
Oh, that
yeah,
just blessed me. Because when he looks at me, he made me.
exactly.
And I want you to be you. Like
Yeah,
be all that you
yeah.
are because I'm a designer's original.
You are, yeah.
That you are a designer
Uh,
and that alone should pique my curiosity. Like,
yes.
wow,
Yeah,
tell me about you. Like
yeah.
tell and I think if we sense fear, we should eradicate it. First of all, we know fear doesn't come from God.
This is true, right.
Fear does not come from God.
And I know
So
you spoke on that before. I've
yeah,
heard
like
you, yeah,
yeah, he doesn't, give us a spirit of fear,
right.
but of power and love and of good judgment and a sound mind. And so if I'm fearful, I need to ask myself, why am I afraid of that?
Yeah,
What am I so afraid of?
yeah. And I,
She's another woman.
yeah,
He's a guy. I'm a girl. She comes from this place. I met somebody the other day who is from where did she say she's from? I think she said Venezuela.
okay.
And I was like, oh, cool. And I just listened to her share a little bit about how long she's been here and what her story is. And what was so intriguing to me is that I grew up in Georgia. I've never lived in another state, but she left an entire country and is here now learning a new language. And I'm thinking, you're so cool. How
Right.
brave you must be. How courageous that is for you. I've never moved outside of my own original state. And so when you really change your perspective
Right.
and seek to be curious. And curiosity leads to questions, which leads to invitations. But if there's fear there, first thing I would ask them, why am I afraid of that?
Right, right. Because you're right. That doesn't come from God. That comes from
Hmm.
something in our culture, something from man that we've
Absolutely.
kind of made up
Yes,
these rules about, who's who
absolutely.
and
Because there's strength in our common ground.
yeah,
There's strength in that. And the more we find those commonalities and that strength, the more we can accomplish and do great things. God could be trying to put us together to do some business together or build
yeah,
a business or build a
yeah.
ministry or serve together. There's so many things. And so I think a lot of times the things that keep us separated um, is strategic,
Mm.
because there's so much more to be done, to be fulfilled. But if we allow our differences to keep us separated, just imagine the things that aren't accomplished because people didn't come together and get to know one another.
It's so true. It's kind of sad, but like we're changing that,
Yes,
right?
we are changing that.
It reminds me there was I used to work in children's ministry and I
Hmm.
had a volunteer who is from Taiwan.
Hmm.
And I don't usually hear God talking to me, and I didn't hear it audibly,
Hmm.
but it was like Easter was the next weekend and it hit me that she had no family here and
Hmm.
she was the only Christian in her
Hmm.
family. And I just blurted out, "Do you wanna come to Easter to my house?"
Hmm.
Now, I had a panic attack afterwards because I was like, "Oh my gosh,
What am I gonna do?
yeah, my family is crazy," and, like, but it worked out, and she ended up, like, kinda coming to, like, every event and
That is so
birthdays and all the
cool.
but
And
I
just that
realized
fast.
it wasn't me. I was like, I regretted it. I feel like immediately, but then I didn't
Absolutely.
regret it when. So how do you know when God is telling you? Because that was the one time, right?
When you wouldn't tell yourself.
I was like, okay, I got it. But
That's
like,
a big clue when
yeah,
it's not something you would normally do.
right. I didn't want to do it, but I
Yeah.
wanted to do it.
You wanted to, but you didn't want to, and it's just like you you just jump on it. You just do it. And then you find so much can be discovered in that. A relationship can be built. And it's kind of nerve-wracking. But if we don't ever learn to just take that one step of obedience that one time and then you see, oh, that worked out. So then the next time that happens, you have a little more faith and a little more confidence in, okay, I can do this. Because at the end of the day, what do you have to lose?
Yeah,
What do you have to lose?
yeah. It could be maybe an awkward night, would be the worst thing that could happen.
That's
Or an
maybe the
awkward
worst. Oh,
coffee, or,
awkward
you
coffee.
know,
Yeah, like, well, that was weird.
yeah, but
You
okay.
know, but then it might be a try again, or
Yeah,
okay, well, maybe not. But I think that's how
yeah,
we learn how to hear the voice of God. It's just by saying yes to that thing that we're just like, okay, well, I'm just going to go for it, Lord. And if this is not something you want me to do, put a full stop on it. But if
right.
not, I think I'm going to move forward and just see what you do. I'm going to just trust you, because that's how you build your faith, and that's how you build trust, and that's how you tune your ear to hear. Um,
That makes total sense, because I know that, with, Jeff Jones, our main
mhm,
pastor, he, wrote a book, Rewriting Christianity, and
mhm,
that's one of the things he talks about, is meeting people where they are,
mhm.
uh, and erring on the side of grace in
Yes,
all circumstances.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and, like, I think that's kind of the message I'm hearing from you. You're gonna see that person and find the beauty in
Mhm.
them.
And trust over suspicion as well. I hear that a lot. Choose to trust over be suspicious. Ask yourself, why am I suspicious? What am I
Mhm.
responding to that isn't necessarily reality? What is it? Is this a preconceived idea? Is this something that I'm hearing in the culture that I have not seen this person actually demonstrate?
Right.
Am I assuming? And then, like you said, the extension of grace. Of course, when you come to my house, you're not going to know to take your shoes off unless you see that the shoes are there, or I say, "Hey, we take our shoes off here." So
Right.
you shouldn't why would I get mad at you for not
Right.
taking your shoes off if I never explained that that's something that we do in our home? And so a lot of times we meet people who don't look like us or who grew up differently than us, and we just are kind of sitting back with our arms crossed like, "Well, you should know."
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
how?
Yeah.
How would they know? And so when you
100%.
when you choose to just say, "Hey, this is what this is," I shared a story about my friend and just different things that, we just don't do. And like, I don't, when I cook, we put the spoon in the sink. But when she cooks for her family, she just stirs it up and she just, "Oh, y'all taste this." And they just, because
Some of my
they're
mom
eating
did it,
it.
yeah.
And I know so many families do it. Like, if it was just me and my husband, I probably would do that and just say, "Hey, taste this." And it's no big deal. But, she wasn't even thinking about that.
Right.
But I think had I just gotten angry or felt some type of way, or assumed that this is something white people do, or
Mhm.
this is something black people do, who said?
Right.
I think there's so many things that are out there that I believe the enemy just stirs up. What about this?
Yeah.
Chaos, just to make
Just
chaos,
poking at you.
just poking
Mhm.
and to develop separation. Because God knows when we come together, oh my goodness, we can conquer anything. And there's work to be done, but we can't do it separated. So
I okay. I love all of that. I feel like we could talk for another hour, like, easily, like, about this. I
easy.
don't feel like we're anywhere near
I
stopping,
know.
but we are out of time. And this was just an amazing discussion. I hope you got something out of it. I think both of us
Yes.
have improved our lives for talking with one another. We really are glad you joined us. If you're in the Dallas Fort Worth area, we would love to have you come by and come see a service. You can find out all the information in the box down below. Until then, be so kind that it's dangerous.